I have often said that my big catalyst moment was watching my middle daughter emulate a lot of my people pleasing perfectionist tendencies. There was a point in time when she was about, I want to say it was 10 and a half, 11, and I was seeing the anxiety from that come out in physical manifestations. And that was my moment of awareness of, wow, Kamini, this is a reflection of how you're showing up as a parent and as a mother, and it's time to do some self-reflection. And so I think that was the catalyst moment. So I would say that would be my identifying tipping point. But then it was a journey of that continued self-reflection, that journey of becoming more aware.
Hello, my name's Niranjan, the host of Master of Your Crafts podcast. Learning from leaders who are continuously inspired, passionate, and driven to align with their soul purpose, sharing their gifts to bring healing to others. The music is composed by Rebecca Everett. Today is episode number 163, and I had the pleasure of talking to Kamini Wood, the founder of Live Joy Your Way, where she helps high achievers overcome imposter syndrome, trauma, and self-doubt to reclaim their authentic joy. A coach, author, and podcaster, she blends personal insight with her authentic me trademark method to guide teens and adults towards confidence and fulfillment. Enjoy this conversation and thank you for watching. Hello and welcome to Kamini. How are you?
I am well. I'm well. I'm excited to be here with you.
I'm excited for you to carve out some time and be here and present with me and share with me your experience because you're one busy lady.
Mm. There's a lot going on.
There seems to be. There seems to be not only the busy life that you have with your children, but you're in your professional life too, in serving clients, your own podcast, and you've written a book as well.
Yes, yes. It sounds really grand. I didn't write the book in at the same time that I'm doing all the things that I started off actually. That's been out for a couple of years at this point, but
Yeah.
yeah.
But
I like to keep
nevertheless,
myself busy.
I see that and I hear that, and it seems very, very evident. So I commend you on keeping yourself very busy, but I want to highlight some of the other pieces that bring you to that busyness and that drives you in the mastery of you supporting others as well. So I have a big, bold question to begin with is what is it you believe about yourself? Having gone through a lifetime and a half, probably, of experiences, and does that belief define who you are at this moment of time?
Oh my gosh, you didn't hold back on the bold question. I'm going to actually give you sort of a little bit of a longer answer. I think uh, the belief about self for me changed.
Yeah,
I think before, when I was going through my 20s and 30s, there was a true belief that my purpose was to make sure others were okay and to people please, right? There was a lot of limiting belief around where my worthiness comes from.
mm,
And I will say that now, in this part of my journey of this lifetime, it has shifted into truly a belief of knowing that my worthiness is an inside out thing. Sure, it can get shaky at times. I think that we're all human and we have our moments, but I have done a lot of work, and life experience has shown me too that I I truly am worthy from my values and who I am. And honestly, my journey through that process is why I do what I do, because now that's what I'm supporting people with, is recognizing that once they know their own values and really see themselves, so much can shift. And
yeah,
it's because that was my journey.
yeah. So what has that taught you about you?
It has taught me that I am a heck of a lot stronger. than I may have thought before. It's also taught me that I can trust myself. It doesn't mean that I always feel like I'm making the right decision, right? The trust is more about not each individual decision. It's about trusting that no matter what happens, I will continue to show up for myself and I will continue to move forward. So that's really what it's taught me is there's this inner resilience that I can fully depend on.
What was what was the tipping point for you to get to that space?
I have often said that my big catalyst moment was watching my middle daughter emulate a lot of my people pleasing perfectionist tendencies. There was a point in time when she was about, I want to say it was 10 and a half, 11, and I was seeing the anxiety from that come out in physical manifestations. And that was my moment of awareness of, wow, Kamini, this is a reflection of how you're showing up as a parent and as a mother, and it's time to do some self-reflection. And so I think that was the catalyst moment. So I would say that would be my identifying tipping point. But then it was a journey of that continued self-reflection, that journey of becoming more aware, that self-awareness. So with that self-awareness, then there was the
Right.
choice point of what are you going to do with this awareness
That's right.
now, right? Awareness
That's
is only
right.
that first step.
Yes.
So for me, and I will routinely say to anybody who talks to me about my kids is that they have been my greatest teacher. They continue to be my greatest teachers, even though they're not little anymore.
Mhm.
But that was probably, I would say, the tipping point for me.
Yeah. What were some of the attributes or skill sets or tools that you utilized to get you through that process and that maybe you embody and harness now even?
I would say the very first thing that I needed was the willingness, right? I think so often we need to be willing to do that work. So for me, it was harnessing that the willingness to take those hard looks at some of those stories that I told myself and the ways that I was showing up. I think the other really important thing was coming to it with a non-judgmental mindset, which was difficult because I am definitely still a perfectionist
Mm.
and like I mentioned, a people pleaser. So at first, when first starting that journey, it was harder to go into it without getting shut down by that judgmental mindset of like, and that shaming mindset. So for
Mhm.
me, it was being open though, being open and then being willing to take those hard looks. And then, of course, the tools itself started. I mean, I started to really identify with mindfulness and just coming into the present moment. Um, as a high achiever myself, I would spend most of my time worrying about what would happen next. And so mindfulness practices were really important for me to start working through
Mhm.
where I was at that present moment and then taking the steps forward.
Yeah. That's quite a journey to be open and receptive to your own shortcomings, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
that lead you in a space and in a path of being uncomfortable, but also influencing the rest of your life. I mean, I'm assuming, well, you've got children. I don't know how old they were at that time when you were in that juncture of your life. However, regardless, the influence is there to them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's been actually quite amazing to watch in terms of me going through that journey, not hiding it, and like really being upfront with my kids about what I was experiencing. I think that's
Mhm.
part of it too, is, communicating and saying, like, this is something that mom's working on too.
Mhm.
It was a way to connect with my daughter without also shaming her, for instance, but saying, yeah, I'm noticing mom has some of these tendencies too. And it's something that I'm working on. But for me, watching my kids now, so as of today, my oldest is 23, son's about to turn 21, 18, 15 and a half, and then 11.
Mhm.
I watched them because at that time they were all like my youngest was still a baby.
Right.
Um, Watching them and how they work through things now, and they know that the power is actually in paying attention to how they feel and not hiding from their feelings, for instance,
Yeah.
or the fact that it is important to communicate what is going on for them and what they need, and that that's not selfish. It's been huge because they're building deeper relationships amongst their own peers, but they're also building deeper relationships amongst each other.
Right. Yeah. Which is often something that isn't really seen in any families, let alone very close-knit families that have had their tumultuous challenges.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, and yes, I think even working with clients, that is something that comes up time and time again, is not not really speaking about feelings or emotions. It's almost like we kind of just pass
Hmm.
by it pretty quickly, right? It's
Hmm.
like, oh, okay, yeah, 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 but you'll be fine. And instead, it's like it's making room for those to actually have a presence and saying, okay, what is this communicating to me? Because that was a big change for me as well, is to
Yeah.
recognize that, hey, I can have anxiety. I can have part of me can feel
Hmm.
anxious.
Hmm.
What's it telling me?
Hmm.
Rather than, oh my gosh, I'm feeling anxious and that, like I need it to stop. And like that's not okay.
Right.
It
Right.
it's recognizing, okay, that's part of the human experience, and what can we do
That's
with the
right.
information?
That's right. And it's
Yeah.
validating it. And that's part of the process of anybody, I believe, regardless of what relationship you're in, be it with your spouse, partner, family member, children, but even
Mm-hmm.
for yourself, the opportunity to validate yourself
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
okay, those emotional experiences is huge, which we don't
Oh
get
my gosh, yeah.
taught. The narrative, regardless of how we've all been raised, that narrative out there doesn't honor that. Well, it may do now, but back when I was a young adult, it
Mm-hmm.
just wasn't there. And I'm hearing that somewhat similar for you too.
Oh yeah, yeah. I am blessed because I get to work with teenagers all the way through adults. But I will share that regardless of uh, culturally how people were raised, I have seen and heard time and time again, especially with more mature adults, that that has not been something that they were taught, like
Hmm.
in terms of emotions. While yes, the younger generation is becoming more aware of it, we still
Hmm.
have to remember that they're still getting their messages from our generation
Yeah,
where it still may not be normalized. So
yeah,
the more we can empower them to recognize that there is so much information in our feelings and emotions, and we can make room for that in the conversation, that's how we change some of
that's
that
right.
going
That's
forward.
right. Yeah. And it's, yeah, we have to amplify that. We have to be examples of that ultimately, right? Be it you have children or not, it's who we are and how we move through the world, which is the most important piece.
Yes. Yes.
It's all we
Yes.
got. It's all we
Mm-hmm.
got to answer for ourselves, ultimately, at the end of the day. So, this is quite a transition for you in working with individuals and being in this place of, I want to say, all the emotional aspects of life. So,
Mm-hmm.
all the touchy-feely stuff, so to speak,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because you came from a very analytical field
Yes.
in terms of
Yes.
your mathematician, and all of that is very analytical, very
Mm-hmm.
opposite spectrum of the of the hemisphere, if you will. So, what was it that switched that over for you?
Well, to be totally honest, as a 7-year-old, what I really wanted to do was just talk to people. I was an introvert, yet at 7, I wanted to just, I always say, well, if I was asked what do you want to do, I would answer that question by saying, I just want to talk to people, like one on one. That's it. Just let me talk to people. Didn't know what that meant.
Yeah.
Um, but I will say that that analytical part of me actually is almost like my little superpower that kind of hangs out in the background, because it's like I made a world where my empathy can meet the analytical part of me. I am such an empath by nature. I feel that my empathy is such a huge strength of mine, and that analytical part of me can pick up on patterns very quickly.
Mhm.
So in conversations, I'm able to sit and listen to somebody very actively, and I'm listening to what they're saying, also what they're not saying,
Mhm.
and we're able to together then we're able to like decipher some of the patterns that might be there in the background. So while it seems like it's a completely different end of the spectrum, really what I did was say, I basically gave myself permission to bring all parts of me kind of in the room together.
Sure, Sure. But when you embarked on that journey in the study of the very analytical part of your world, was the intentions for you to come back and find that level ground? Because I know we don't plan for it, but ultimately something happens that says, oh, I can use this, this, and this and bring it all together. How did
Oh
that
no, no.
unfold for you?
I was just in my world of check boxing and just
Mm,
like, oh, okay, my journey is supposed to be go into the business world and just, do something businessy. I ended up working as a project manager and then worked my way up to running the project management office at a .com and,
yeah.
using that analytical part of me. But every role I ended up in, even in the professional world, always I was so interested in what's going on with the people. Tell me what you need, what because even as a project manager you're managing resources and
Hmm.
can we make the deadline for this project and what do we need, but I was always interested in talking to, tell me what's happening for you, what's going
Hmm.
on, can I understand, can I be supportive in some way? So I kept pulling myself back, not knowing, I was not aware, I was just, this was like natural for me. And then only after I did my own self work did it all kind of hit that head for me where I realized I wanted to bring both of these things together. And there was a method that I could do it.
Hmm. And what a beautiful aha that is. To be in that
Yes.
space and moment
Yes.
going, oh, so all of that it wasn't just a ruthless experience that I needed to go through, rather than it had actual meaning, purpose, and I can bring it together with some real value.
I will say that that is something that I have definitely honed in on, what you just said. Whatever I just went through, there is a purpose to it.
Yeah.
So even as life continues, I mean, it's going to continue to throw challenges and just things that
Hmm.
maybe would choose not, we would, if we had the choice, we would say, let me not go through this experience.
Sure.
However, that has been a grounding mantra for me is even if I don't see the purpose right now, I'll eventually understand it later.
Yeah. Beautiful. Is this something that's on your radar now that's maybe a little left field, going, I don't know how this is going to fit in, but I'm enjoying it. It's fulfilling and it's giving something back to me and adding to me, but I don't know how it's going to fit in. So let's just follow it through.
I'm constantly in this discovery stage, I think. I just love to learn. So there are just things that I'll come across. Like, I mean, just a little bit ago, not a little bit, maybe about a year ago, I really embarked on just trying out breath work for myself, as an
Mhm.
example. And I realized, wow, this is really life changing in a different way.
Mhm.
This takes you out of the cognitive side and just going into what your body's holding on to. And
Yeah.
holy wow, there is such a release. And so I didn't know exactly how it was going to fit into what I was doing, but found a way to integrate it into some of my sessions with my clients. So for me right now, it's always it's about remaining open. I'm very open to just seeing things, reading things, and just I when something interests me, I kind of do dive a deep dive into it because that's just how I operate. I mean,
I
right
see
now it's
that.
really got me inspired is really kind of really just understanding more of the people pleasing aspect
Yeah.
that people are going through, right, and how it's affecting them. And also I'm really interested in how we work with our mindset and belief systems.
Hmm.
While that's always been part of my work, it's really kind of repopulated. I mean, I think I've always stayed with it, but for right now, for some reason, it's been really prevalent in a
Hmm.
lot of my coaching conversations.
Hmm.
And so
Hmm.
I'm just sort of finding myself reinvigorated to do even more work around that.
Right. Perhaps a deeper layer for yourself
Exactly.
to
Exactly.
unravel so then you can
Yes.
support others on that journey too. That's what often happens, right?
Yes. Absolutely. People will often say, what makes you different? And I will say that, my personal life experiences, in conjunction, sure, with my training, but my personal life experiences are my unique gift and quality
Hmm.
that allows me to serve people in a completely unique way.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you recognize the individuals that are gravitated towards you, a particular niche, a particular demographic or challenge that for those that you serve?
Yeah, I would say that a majority of individuals that I end up that gravitate towards me are people who, tend to, I say high achievers, but I don't mean like they are, you know, necessarily from a professional standpoint. It's the people that are routinely finding themselves constantly chasing the next thing
Mm-hmm.
because there's this chase of that's not enough,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that tends to be the type of person that ends up gravitating towards me, and I can work with them in such a deep way because I have been there and I resonated with and I
Right.
resonate with it.
Right.
So I would say that, I mean, that's why I work with teens all the way through adults, because that pops up at so many stages of life. So a lot of my clients end up being individuals who are struggling with
Mm-hmm.
that not enoughness, or perfectionism, the people pleasing, but
Mm-hmm.
also just that imposter syndrome. You know, maybe
Right.
they've made it to a certain level, but now they're finding themselves plateaued, but they can't quite put their finger on it.
Yes, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So beyond that, in serving individuals with some of those bigger issues, if you will, um, what else do you intend for your clients and the craft that you have garnered and really um, tweaked along the way in serving these individuals? What else is it you want to give out there to the world and support others on?
You know, yes, it's helping people with these topics, but ultimately it is hopefully having individuals who interact with me and work with me, when they are completed, they have a deeper understanding of themselves, right?
Mhm.
That foundational relationship with themselves is a strong one, but also that they're walking away with a sense of not just purpose, but real ownership of who they are, recognizing that that uniqueness is the gift that they are giving the world, right?
Mhm.
And if that can be put out into the world, that we don't have to be just like everyone else, that it's actually quite important that we harness our uniqueness. That's hopefully what people are walking away with.
Yeah, yeah. What's next for you?
Well, I'm going to continue working with my business and my one-to-one clients. I mean, that's truly where my heart is just so happy and feel so content and fulfilled working with my clients. And on a personal level, I'm now entering a different stage with my kids. I get to now
Mhm.
be more of not, you know, I've always been their cheerleader, but now I get to take on a different role in terms of mom,
Right.
because they're off and doing their own things and creating their own path as adults. And so
Yeah.
that's part of my next journey, is just shifting into a different form of motherhood. So
Yeah. And how's that feeling for you in, yeah, motherhood, changing the dynamics between you and them, but also you and yourself, because you're straddling a spectrum, because you still
Mhm.
have a young teen and you
Yes,
have
yes,
a fully fledged, so to speak,
yeah,
adult.
yes, yes.
So that transition for you in your own reflection and your own learning is quite difficult, and I imagine is for many mothers out there. What do you think are some of the bigger pieces that mothers and even fathers, parents can walk away from with your learning on your experience?
One thing that I will share, and I'm very transparent with people that I work with, is I've really learned and honed in on mindful parenting, which is being very aware of what's coming up for me in context of when I'm interacting with my kids. So it has been very helpful to straddle that, because when I'm talking to my 23-year-old, I remember to ground myself and come into, what making sure that I'm not projecting my own fears or worries onto
Hmm.
her in terms of
Hmm.
when she's sharing something with me, making sure that I've really fully shifted into listening to her and recognizing that this is her story, and that my job is to support in that way. And
Yeah,
then, of course, when you shift back into the preteen teen stage, it's
yeah.
about, again, grounding and making sure that I know what's happening for me, and making sure that I'm communicating from that perspective rather than how I would communicate with my 23-year-old. And so for me, it is really about honing in on this idea of mindful parenting, paying attention to where I am, what's happening for me, making sure that I'm taking care of myself in that
Mhm.
regard, so that when I'm in interaction with any of the kids, I'm not projecting my own stuff onto them.
Right, right. Is there a tipping point? Because perhaps the way I was raised and some of the people close to me were all raised differently. Rather, the concept and the idea that I came across of somebody raising their children as they parent them up until a certain age. And as they become older, then they don't parent them, so to speak, but they're still there for them, but rather they then become somewhat their peers. Because the role and the labels then get transitioned into, we're in adulthood now. You're an adult, I'm an adult. Granted, there's a couple of decades in between. However, the dynamics of that relationship ultimately shifts. Have you seen that? Have you worked with that concept? Because I'm not a parent myself, but I feel like I should be, because I have lots of nieces and nephews, but other people around me too. But it still feels like an interesting concept to parent that way.
Definitely it shifts. I wouldn't say that there's a tipping point that's the same for every single person. I would say for me, for instance, my oldest daughter, she is a professional ballerina. So she kind of was out in the world right at 18. She went and she had a contract with a company and was really on her own at that point. And so I would say that the dynamics between her and I did have a shift at that point, simply because of where she was also in her life. Now, my almost 21-year-old is still in college. So again, the parenting is slightly different. Yes, I'm not parenting him the same way as his 15-and-a-half-year-old brother, because he also is somewhat on his own and in college and an adult. But I'm also not parenting him exactly the same way as his sister, who's been out in the world now for the last 4 years, right? Or 5 years. Yeah. So it's important to give yourself grace to know that there's not going to be the right answer. It's going to be what works for you. But I do agree that the role shifts, the way you parent does shift, as it does with, how you parent a toddler is going to be different than through the teenage years. Basics are there, but the way you interact is going to shift and grow and evolve as each of you grow and evolve. I am definitely of the mindset that when they turn 18, you don't suddenly stop being a parent, though. I think that I am always their mother until I'm no longer in existence.
Sure.
It's just that the way that we communicate is going to shift. And now there is more adult conversation, right? There's less do it this way. It's interesting. Let's have a conversation about it. What are you thinking? Right. Tell me more about why you're thinking that. Really getting much more curious for them to voice what it is that they're thinking, and then being that support system.
Right.
And of course, recognizing that also they get an opportunity to invite you into that conversation. You as the parent, you don't get to just infiltrate and say, do it this way.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Less dictatorial, so to speak, and less directive, rather more subjective and objective. Yeah, it's beautiful. And I think it's a beautiful awareness to have that, not only in seeing them in their fruition and their growth and their expansion, but also for oneself too, because it changed the dynamics that we have with ourselves. That we've all seen the parent, and perhaps our own parents did the same, of we're adults, but they're treating us like toddlers.
Yes.
We know those parents. So that's a beautiful transition, and I commend you for doing that in your family and your growth. So I can only imagine how much support you're giving others on their journey too. So well done.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'm excited for what's going to happen next for you in continuing the growth of you and your expansion and peeling back all those other additional layers, but also supporting others on their journey into. So I am grateful for you sharing your story and your experiences and lessons learned for our audience members, and for me to have this dynamic conversation with you. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
I'm Niranjan, and you've been listening to Master of Your Crafts podcast. Please subscribe, rate, and review, and join me next week for another episode. Thank you for listening.